Greetings, my name is Kerry and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a tag video for you. This is the, I'm gonna get this right, Fave, Festive Family Films tag created by Kayla from Crack Into a Good Book. So she tagged me to do this and I'm really excited to do it. It's getting close to Christmas, so I'm hoping to have this up before Christmas. I am filming 2 tag videos today, so I've tried really hard to not talk about the same books in either tag video, which has made my life a little bit more difficult, but it's really fun. I also need to point out that I'm wearing my fabulous Christmas jumper today. It says "Slay the Patriarchy," which we are definitely here for. Okay, so I'm just gonna get into the prompts. So for each prompt, Kayla has picked one of her favourite festive family films that she and her family watch together around Christmas time, and she's picked a quote from that film, and then the question is based on the quote. First film is Elf, and the first quote is "The best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear." And the question is, what is a book that makes you smile? So the book that I've picked for this one is Emma by Jane Austen. I reread this year. I reread it as an audiobook this year, which was really fun actually to listen to it. The narrator was really good, but this is just, every time I reread this book it just brings me so much joy. It's my favourite Jane Austen book, and I just think it's just such a brilliant story. Her characterisation is so good, and I think this is probably the funniest of her books. Yeah, this is a book that makes me smile, makes me feel good. The next film is The Muppet Christmas Carol, and the quote is "A blue fairy Charles Dickens who hangs out with a rat." And the question is, what is one of your favourite retellings or adaptations of a story? So this question, a very similar question, came up in the other tag video that I've also filmed today, and so I deliberately have picked a different book for this, which is good because I end up always talking about the same series usually when I talk about retellings. So the book I'm going to talk about for this prompt today is called Masque by Bethany Pope, and this is a retelling of The Phantom of the Opera. And now it's a couple of years since I read it, so I'm going to try and get this right. So the original book, The Phantom of the Opera, was kind of a mystery story, and it was these couple of investigators trying to figure out what was going on, all the weird things that were going on at this theatre. And then obviously it was famously made into a musical by Andrew Lloyd Webber, which took quite a different perspective, really focused on the love story element, but kind of was quite demonising of the Phantom character, presented Christine as quite kind of ineffective and a bit weak and wimpy, and the bloke in it, whose name I forget, is it Raoul? Who's kind of the hero that comes to her rescue, and I always found that portrayal a little bit troubling. Anyway, Masque takes the different perspective and portrays the Phantom as kind of this misunderstood hero. Christine has so much more agency and action in the book, and Raoul, I can't remember if that was actually his name. But anyway, the other guy is like presented in a really awful light, and I thought it was a really interesting take on that story, so I really do recommend it. I really enjoyed that book. Film number 3 is The Grinch, and the quote is "You're a 3-decker sauerkraut and toadstool sandwich." I can't read my own writing. And the question is, who is one of your favourite book villains? I struggled with this, and then I realised I just read a book which had one of my favourite villains in it. I don't always go for villains. I tend to be quite neutral good and go for the heroes. But anyway, one of my favourite villains, I have to be really careful because this book is a bit delicate, is George Warleggan in the Poldark book. So I recently finished the 10th Poldark book. This is George in the original BBC adaptations from like the 80s. In the more recent adaptations he was played by Jack Farthing, who, if I can find a picture I'll stick it here because he is really nice. The actor himself is very different to the character. And George is one of those characters that you really do love to hate. Like, he is so horrible to all the people around him that is kind of quite satisfying when things don't go his way. And the rivalry between him and Ross in the books is like one of the real draws of the books. The way that those two characters interplay with each other, and like you're rooting for Ross all the time. He's like the main character really, but he's flawed as well. He's not a perfect individual. And as the books go on, so there are 12 books in the series, I just read the 10th one, and these books are set like 20, 25, 30 years after the original books. And so to see those characters develop over that time, and Ross as a person really grows and develops and becomes a much more likeable individual the longer, like, the more time you spend with him. Makes some really bad decisions at times, but you're still kind of like, oh, you're frustrated that he's done that, but you still root for him. George just gets more and more entrenched in his own interests, and kind of is still in the later books is like really unlikable but in a way that you kind of like, that you don't like him, or at least I do. So it is still really satisfying when things, as I say, when things don't go his way, it's really very satisfying. So if you haven't read the Poldark books before, I really do recommend them. Film number 4 is the SpongeBob Christmas Special, and the quote is, "This Christmas feels like the very first Christmas to me." And the question is, what was one of the first books you read in one of your favourite genres? I don't really remember for a lot of my favourite genres what I read, but what I do remember is the first classic I picked up, the first classic novel I picked up, and I was about 10 or 11 years old, and that was Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. And I really remember it because I remember getting to about, it's maybe like, chapter 10, chapter 9, chapter 10. Where, if you're not familiar with the story, Jane is a kind of unloved orphan girl. She's being brought up by her aunt and she's sent away to this horrible boarding school, and she makes a really good friend there who's called Helen, and then, I mean, slight spoiler here, but it's within the first 100 pages of the book, Helen dies. As a 10-year-old, I was about the same age that Jane was at that point in the book, and I was so upset that I actually had to stop reading it for like a month, and then when I felt ready to, I carried on. And so the experience of reading it at that age has really stayed with me, and I mean, it did ignite a love for me of reading these older classic books. I've read nearly all of Charlotte Bronte's books, I've read all of Anne Bronte's books, I've read all of Jane Austen's books, and it just kind of was my first experience of reading something that was written in this kind of more antiquated style, but the fact that I could read it and could understand it and follow it and enjoy it actually at that age really meant a lot to me, and I was already a big reader. But yeah, it just kind of grew that love for reading in me. So I need to reread it soon, actually, because it's been a few years since I reread it. But I still love classics, and not all of them are great. Like, I just reread Wuthering Heights and I really didn't enjoy it, but really still have a lot of affection for this book because it was my earliest attempt at reading a classic. Film number 5 is A Christmas Story, and the quote is, "A major award," and the question is, a book that you love that won an award. I thought for a little bit about this one, and I've ended up picking Ancillary Justice by Leckie. This one, I think both the Hugo and the Nebula Awards. It's won quite a lot of science fiction awards. I read it a little over a year ago. I finished the series in the early part of this year. I've read another of Leckie's books, Provenance, which is set within the same universe. I haven't yet read her first fantasy book, but I'm really excited to read that. I'll probably try and get to that early next year. That first book, Ancillary Justice, is so complex and so well put together. I know some people have found it quite confusing, partly because the central character who's narrating the story is gender blind, which means that basically all the characters, she refers to them all as she, but I thought that was quite fun. And it's told across 2 timelines. The premise is the central character, Breck, used to be the AI of a large troop-carrying spaceship, and at some point in the story something has happened that has meant that the entire consciousness of the ship has just been left in one human body, and so the story is told across the 2 timelines of what is happening to Breck in the present day as she tries to get revenge for what has happened to her and to her friends, and then in the past what has led her to this point, how she has ended up as just this consciousness in this one human body. I thought the universe that Leckie creates in these books is just so intricate and really cool. I really liked it. There's a lot of discussion of what makes people people, particularly towards the end of the 3rd book, and that's what I really love about a lot of science fiction, is the way it shines lights on certain aspects of society. There's kind of like discussion of racism and slavery and stuff like that in this book, but because it's set in another universe it enables you to think more clearly about it. Anyway, I really love that series. I borrowed them all from the library, so I'm gonna have to get my own copies at some point so I can reread them because they are just really, really good. Film number 6 is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, and the quote is Jelly of the Month Club, and the question is a book that turned out to be a disappointment. Probably no prizes for guessing what book I'm going to talk about. This was one of our Space Orange book club books this year, and one that I was really sad that I didn't enjoy it. I really wanted to love it, and it was Jade City by Fonda. I was so hoping to love this book because everyone else in the book club really loved it. It's a really highly rated book, and I'm happy to say that I thought it was really well written. The world building was really good. The characters were all really well defined and described, and their motivations were clear. I just didn't like any of them. The setup of the novel, it was like really heavily inspired by like martial art films and gang films, and neither of those things particularly appealed to me. So between having no characters that I liked, or very few characters that I liked and was rooting for, and a setting that I didn't particularly enjoy, just there was so much about this book that just was not right for me, and it was really sad because I really wanted to enjoy it because my friends enjoyed it so much. I don't know if disappointment is the right word. I was sad that I didn't enjoy it as much as I hoped that I would. Yeah, so kind of a disappointment, I guess, in that sense, that I had really high hopes. I really thought I was going to love it because my friends all loved it, and I really did not enjoy it. Prompt number 7, the film is Bad Santa. The quote is, "Should I fix you some sandwiches?" And the question is, name a character who is optimistic or wants to help others. And for this one, I've put Raybearer, and I'm assuming I meant the main character, I can't remember. Like, I wrote my answers for these like a week ago. I mean, she is. She definitely is. She has grown up quite isolated. She's been given a mission by her mother, who's called the Lady, which is to essentially to kill the crown prince of her nation. But when she meets him, she knows that she doesn't want to, and so she's fighting this kind of binding that her mother has put on her, like mental binding. So she's quite optimistic in that sense because she knows that what she's been asked to do is not right. She wants to help people, so she has a form of memory magic, which means that she can alleviate people's sufferings by temporarily removing their bad memories, and this is shown by how she interacts with one of the other characters, Sanjeet. Sanjeet has a lot of troubling memories from his life before he came to the palace, and so she spends a lot of time trying to alleviate them, and she is just constantly trying to look for ways that she can serve the kingdom better. As one of Deo, the crown prince, as a member of his council, she's always looking out for how she can improve the situation of the people in this country. So yeah, I think she does fit that category. Although I initially couldn't remember why I picked this book and this character for this, I think she does fit that category. Okay, so the next film is The Santa Claus, and the quote is, "Seeing isn't believing, believing is seeing." And the question is, what is something from a book that you wish was real? For this, I'm going to talk about, I've got the second book here, but I'm kind of more talking about the first book because I haven't read the second book yet. But anyway, so it's Clef from the Founders trilogy. This is the second book, Shortfall, which I'm hoping to read soon. The first book, Foundryside, I borrowed from the library, so I don't have a copy of it. But Clef is the character in these books. He is a key, but he has a consciousness. So the main character, Sancha, when she is holding Clef, she can talk to him. And we don't yet entirely know at the end of the first book how this person has ended up being a key, but he's just like, he's got this really dry sense of humour, quite sarcastic, and the interplay between him and Sancho is really, really fun. And I mean, I would love to have a friend that was a key. So I just think he's a really cool character, and it's a really great concept, and so I'm really intrigued, excited to see how that develops in this next book, which I'm hopefully going to be reading soon. Film number 9 is The Nightmare Before Christmas, and the quote is, "There's frost on every window," and the question is, what is a book that is perfect to read in winter? So for this, I'm going to pick a book that I'm planning to reread in January. I read it January of this year and really loved it, and it just had the really wintry vibe to it, and so that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I think it's going to become a book that I reread regularly. When I first read it, it took me a little while to get into it, but actually the place that my head was at when I started reading it, like, it was just really a soothing book for me. There's like a lot of stuff that happens in it, and not all of it is nice stuff, but it was just really what I needed to read at the time. If I remember rightly, it's got quite a wintry feel to it, like, because the circus comes at night, it is kind of dark and shadowy. I'm sure some of it is set at winter. I'm sure there's like scenes with snow. I can't entirely remember. But yeah, for me that is like kind of a lovely wintry book. And then the obvious one to talk about at Christmas time is obviously A Christmas Carol, which I do often reread at Christmas time. But yeah, those are two books that I will often reread in the winter time. Christmas Carol I will often reread in December in the run up to Christmas, and The Night Circus I'm planning to reread in January, and I think might become a thing that I do every January. Film number 10 is Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and the quote is, "Didn't I ever tell you about Bumbles? Bumbles bounce." And the question is, what is one of your favourite creatures from a book? So for this, I have gone for my very favourite anthropomorphic character, and that is Paddington Bear. I love the Paddington books. I have been gradually rereading them over the last few years. I really love the old TV series as well. I do not love the films. I've only watched the first of the recent films, and for me it just did not get the essence of who Paddington is. It didn't get it right, and it actually made me a little bit cross. So if you want to really know and love Paddington, read the books or watch the old TV series, which was done as kind of stop animation. Really, really lovely. But Paddington is just like, he's a character I really relate to on so many levels. He just sees the world in a very simple way and is always trying to do his best for people, and things don't always go to plan, but he's just so adorable and lovely. And I bought a duffel coat specifically so I could have a duffel coat because Paddington has a duffel coat. I always wanted one since I was very little, and I bought one a couple of years ago, and it's my favourite thing because it makes me feel like Paddington. I would just love to be friends with Paddington Bear. Anywho, so there are 2 bonus questions. The first one is, what is your favourite Christmas or holiday movie? And so it's one that we've already mentioned. I mean, I've got 2 written down here. One that we've already mentioned, which is The Muppet Christmas Carol. I watch that every year, usually on Christmas Eve, because that feels like the most appropriate time to watch it. I think it's one of the best adaptations of that book. It picks up all of the themes but just translates it so well for a younger audience, and I just love the Muppets and the sense of humour in it, the fun in it. Brilliant, really, really love that film, love all the songs. They've just found one of the missing songs, which is really exciting. I'm hoping that at some point they will find Bunsen Honeydew's song, because that is one of my favourite songs on the soundtrack. I have the CD, listen to it every Christmas, and that song is missing from my DVD, so please find that one too. The other film I put here is another one that I do rewatch every year at Christmas. There was a debate on the radio the other day about whether you can class things as Christmas films or not, and the conclusion that they came to was that if you set it at another time of year, would the plot work? And so I was debating with myself whether this is a Christmas film, because it is a film I would watch at other time of years as well, probably, but if you took Christmas out of it, it probably wouldn't work in the same way. Anyway, so that film is While You Were Sleeping. It's an old classic Sandra Bullock rom-com. She rescues a guy who's been thrown off a train platform, and then he's in a coma, and so she gets to see him in the hospital. She pretends she's engaged to him, and then while he's in the coma she meets his brother, and it just, yeah, it's just so funny and so quirky and just really lovely and gives me those warm fuzzy feelings. It's about found family as well, so yeah, just really lovely story that I really love. And then the final bonus question is, recommend a book to read around Christmas. One of my favourite books to pick up around Christmas time is Letters from Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is a collection of letters and pictures that he sent to his children when they were young, as if they were letters from Father Christmas. Every year he'd get his kids to write to Father Christmas, and then he would read the letters and reply to them, and he'd draw pictures as well, and it's just so lovely. And when I have kids, it's going to be something that we read together every year at Christmas time, so I really enjoy reading that, and it just presents a really different side of Tolkien as a person and as an author. So yeah, I really do love that book. That's all of the questions. I'm not going to tag anyone because it's already nearly Christmas by the time you'll be seeing it, so it doesn't give people a lot of time to do it. And also, all the people that I would have tagged, I think Kayla already tagged when she made it. But if you are watching this and you haven't been tagged to do it and you want to do it, then please do say that I tagged you, because I think these are really fun questions, really fun prompts. I haven't watched all of these films actually, and now I kind of really want to. So I'm gonna maybe have a look and see which ones I can find on Netflix to watch some of the ones I haven't seen before, I haven't seen in a long time. Definitely need to watch The Nightmare Before Christmas, because I don't know how I've got to this age without watching that, and it's on Disney+. Intending to watch that one soon. But anyway, let me know if you read any of these books and what you thought of them. Let me know what some of your favourite Christmas films are that you think I should check out. What are some Christmassy things that you tend to read around this time of year? So have a chat to me down in the comments. Please also like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you haven't already, and you can also follow me on my social media. All that information will be listed for you in the description box below. But that's it for today, so thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye!